Speak the truth, Mr. Spielman. Always speak the truth. Let's not embellish here on the
You're state champions.
Spielman and Hooley We Tackle Life podcast. A team state championship, yes, not a individual, not even close.
You should have won it.
To an individual.
Now that I heard
well,
the story.
I won't deny that. Yeah, there's definitely room for personal improvement. How are you
Game
this
day.
morning?
You
Yeah,
you weren't ready for game
joked.
day.
I didn't rise to the occasion. That's right. I certainly did not.
I'm better since we're starting off like this.
Yeah, of course. Let's talk about failures. Mine and John Beilein's. Although I don't know if I can blame John Beilein for failing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The reports are he is working on his exit strategy. He's walking away from $10 million or more dollars, maybe $15 million. It's nice to be in a position where you can do that. I feel bad for John Beilein. 14-40 with the Cavs. I don't think they ever really gave him a chance. I'm not sure he was equipped to be a NBA head coach. I don't think he had a full view of how different it is. But a nice man, a really great college coach, and looks like he's on his way out with the Cavs.
Well, we talk about fits all the time, coaching fits, whether Mel Tucker was a fit at Michigan State or Luke Fickell. I think you can do that across the spectrum of all sports. Does a coach and a team and a philosophy and all that fit together? And when Beilein was hired for the Cavs, I never thought that would work. I mean, you're bringing a college guy up here for what?
I thought the only way it would work was if they went all young and guys were in the NBA, but they were still okay with being coached like college players.
Where's that going? What universe is that going to happen?
You can't keep Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson. I mean, you got to strip it down to the bones, and Memphis kind of has done that, and it's working in Memphis. It's not working with the Cavs.
But you have to be patient to be able to do that.
You do.
Right?
That's right.
And
yeah.
If you're going to keep Kevin Love and Tristan, then you're not being patient because
Apparently,
those guys you're not going to win. I mean, those guys are support players. They're
apparently
not franchise players.
Someone just told 92.3 in Cleveland that Jason Lloyd, friend of ours, been on our show at the Zone before. Jason with the Athletics says that Andre Drummond, recently acquired from the Pistons, told the Cavs he's like, I guess he can be a free agent next year. There's no way I'm coming back to Cleveland if Beilein is the coach. The Cavs are a curious bunch. I mean, what NBA team has three bigs? Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, and then trades for Andre Drummond.
Yeah,
Just
I don't
dumb.
know. I have no idea. I haven't followed the Cavs. They're not interesting. They don't capture my imagination. They're not going to be in the playoffs. They're not fun to watch. And they're 14-40. And they're with a coach that doesn't want to be there and a team that doesn't want the coach to be there. So, see you later.
Yep. So I'm trying to think, where will he land as a college coach? Big Ten wise, I was trying to think. Is anybody? He's 68.
So maybe
he looks in really good health. Would you be shy as an athletic director of hiring John Beilein and expecting to get 4 to 5 years out of him?
No, not anymore. I think age is different now as it is in each generation. And maybe because I'm getting older, but I think 60 is the new 50 and 70 is the new 60. I mean, that's just the way it is. Yeah. You look at some of the people, and even in acting, like there was a show on Netflix called The Irishman. So there was De Niro and Pacino and Joe Pesci and all these guys, and these guys are just amazing. So I do think, Bruce. I guess my point is that I think age is relative, and it's how you feel and how you perform. But I think John Beilein's energy and his knowledge, if he has that, I think he's more than capable of being a college coach. I look at all the presidential candidates. I mean, President Trump's in his 70s. Bernie Sanders is 78 years old, right? Mm-hmm. Elizabeth Warren, I believe, is in her 70s.
Biden, he's old.
And Biden's in his 70s. So if we're going to ask people to lead our country or vote for people in their 70s to lead our country, no offense to Mayor Pete or anybody else, but I mean, he doesn't seem to be the front runner. And the newest member is Mike Bloomberg. He's in his 70s. He's 78 years old.
Is he really?
Yeah. So looks
good for 78.
That's my point. I mean, we have all these people that we're going to put the responsibility of leading the United States of America. I don't have a problem hiring a 68-year-old if he's got all his wits and smart and energetic and all that stuff to lead a college basketball team.
Here's a sidebar question. We have a minimum age to be president. Would you favor a maximum age to run for president? Would you want to elect? And this is not because Bernie would be in his 80s.
This is just
This is just
if he won, and
if he won at the end of presumably at the end of his first 4-year term. Would you favor a maximum age to run for president so that you wouldn't have a president who's X number of years old?
I'd have to think about that. I mean, if I did, then I might have had to kick President Reagan out of office.
Well, there are all the reports that late in his second term he was, kind of doddering around or suffering from the early stages of Alzheimer's or whatever.
Or dementia or whatever it was. So I don't know. I would think that there would have to be some type of, I guess I can do it with conditions. If you pass the physical and you don't show a loss of mental capacity, then maybe, I don't know.
Boy, how controversial would that be if a guy wanted to be and then they said, nope, sorry, you don't pass the test?
Well, then, I mean, that's, I think, very fair, actually.
Everything would lead to a conspiracy theory.
Of course
everything does now.
Yeah, what else would do? But that's an interesting question.
The Cavs, assuming they move on to J.B. Bickerstaff, will be on their 10th coach since 1999. Same as the Browns. 10 coaches since 1999. But here's the number that stuns me. I just saw it. Joe Vardon of The Athletic tweeted it. Colin Sexton is in his second year in the NBA for the Cavs, their first-round pick, last year, 2 years ago. He's on
Bull.
He's on his 4th head coach in 1.5 seasons.
So how's he supposed to grow from that?
I don't know. So let me think. It would be Ty Lue, and then who replaced Ty Lue? I don't remember. Then John Beilein, and now presumably J.B. Bickerstaff.
Yeah. Well, there's just no stability, and we talked about the one position when Cleveland Browns. What do you need? Stability at the quarterback position. You need stability in the front office. You need stability with the head coach. I mean, usually most of your franchises that have success, and depending on how you define success, at least, in the playoffs or making a run or whatever it is in the NFL, I don't think you can define success only as a Super Bowl champion, but you're sniffing around it all the time, and stability's the key to that at those key positions, with front office, coaching, and of course the quarterback position. Then you can fill in the pieces around there. By the way, here's another one for you. Herm Edwards, who was hired at Arizona State a couple years ago, is 66 years old.
I'd let Herm coach for a while yet. He doesn't look like his tank is even trending toward empty.
I guess that's the point. Going back to Beilein, and there's a lot of great minds. When I was in Buffalo, Marv Levy was in his 70s as our head coach. And you would never know. You just don't look at it like that.
I'm trying to think in the Big Ten where John Beilein might land. Wisconsin's not making a change. Ohio State's not. Michigan's not going to dump Juwan Howard. Michigan State with Izzo. Although Izzo's getting up there, but Izzo can't retire and hire a 68-year-old guy to take his place. Indiana. I had a guy yesterday who said, hey, if I'm Indiana, I go John Beilein right away. That's GoVolX on Twitter. And I was like, yeah, that fits, but they're not dumping out Archie Miller yet.
No. I don't know enough about it.
Illinois guy is doing a good job, and the Rutgers guy's doing a good job. So I don't know, but he coached at West Virginia before, so Big East job, Big 12 job.
He's a guy that reminds me of a guy that he just wants to coach.
Yeah.
I mean, you even go back to Rollie Massimino, right? Rollie Massimino led the Villanova in the great victory. I believe it was in the 1985, 84 season, 85 over somewhere around there, where they beat Georgetown, where they had shot the ball 20-20, I think, in the second half or something. It's
crazy,
like that.
20-24, something crazy.
Yeah, and then ended up being the head coach at Cleveland State.
And UNLV.
Yeah, so I do think that, guys are coaches. I go back to my father on this, okay? My dad was a longtime coach and got out of coaching, but all of a sudden he's coach of a semi-pro team in Canton, Ohio. Then he's coach at Tuscarawas Central Catholic in Tuscarawas County, Ohio. Then he's called me up one day and he's driving to Florida because he's being an assistant offensive coordinator at Dr. Kropp High School in Miami. Coach is coach.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That's who they are. And it's really difficult for coaches to get away from it, and it's rare that coaches do make a clean break. I think ones with proper perspective in life are able to have an easier transition. I'm not saying it's always easier transition from getting away from it, but coaches are always going to coach.
I'm going to make
what they do.
I'm going to make a prediction on Beilein. I'm going to make a prediction that he comes back to coaching, but it's at a school where you go, what? And I don't mean at a D1 school necessarily, although it could be a small D1 school. It could be someplace like in the Big South or someplace like that. He strikes me as the kind of a guy who might go D2, D3 just because he wants to get back to pure coaching, relationship with kids, away from all the big-time pressures of winning an NCAA Division I championship, of recruiting, of big money and all that. It would not surprise me a bit if he went into an environment where he could truly be a teacher and a mentor.
I think the joy of coaching, what little experience I have with kids and so forth, I think the joy of coaching is to be able to see everybody get the message that you're doing. Not only obviously the off the field stuff, but the message of coming together as a team and you put a plan together and the kids execute the plan. And no matter what level that is, when you see that happen, I think that's the payoff for coaches.
Spielman and Hooley podcast at gmail.com if you'd like to email the show. Speaking of coaching, you put out there last week that you like to coach high school linebackers, right?
Yeah, did I get
I don't know. I haven't checked the email inbox yet because we check it fresh. We don't preview our emails.
When my TV career's done, which you never know when that's going to be. But...
I guess I'm going to ask live. We'll have to edit it out if you tell me not to. Are you still signed? You got to.
I'm good. I am good through a year from August. So,
okay, nice.
Yeah. So through at least I'll have a job from about 16, 17 months. So
your contract pretty much pairs up with the collective bargaining agreement, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
There will be no work stoppage or no strike in the NFL, by the way. There'll be a CBA. They're really, really close to getting this done. There will be a 17th game. The 17th game will not kick in until probably 2022 or 23.
Mm-hmm.
They'll drop it down to 3 preseason games. The reason being is that the players will never again, I think, walk out because the money is too good. They'll be walking away from millions and millions of dollars, and you can't do that. I think it's irresponsible for these guys to do that. I think there's concessions. There'll be concessions in training camp, and they won't. Maybe they'll have 2 or 3 padded practices a week, so you'll get bad football early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is good because I do think it keeps your players healthy and it keeps your best players healthy for the most part, or best chance to keep your best players healthy, which is always good for the game, right? But they'll never walk away from that kind of money again. So although, and the owners have been pretty good with concessions, I think you'll see a little bit of concession on marijuana use. I think there'll be probably a 2 or 3 week period within a year where they'll test for marijuana. After that 2 or week 3 period, I think they'll look the other way on it, to be honest with you. So we'll see. But I know that a CBA will get done. Then, of course, the television contracts are up in 2021, which I don't think we'll see the end of that. But I do think you're going to see the end of, and this is just a prediction, and I've talked to some, not higher ups, but people within the business that have opinions on this, and I don't know if anybody's interested in it or not. I'm interested in it, that I don't think you'll have CBS do the AFC and Fox do the NFC. I think it'll be all one mixed
conglomeration.
Conglomeration.
There you go.
And I think that this where networks pool certain games, flex scheduling. So ABC, if they're going to pay that kind of money, will probably want to have certain choices for Monday Night Football. So then you bring in Netflix and Apple TV and what other streaming, Amazon.
Yeah.
And they'll probably get involved. And so the money out there for everybody to prosper is too great. So I think the NFL is in a good place, and it's going to be healthy financially for a long time because you're having these other entities come in, like streaming networks, that are going to be getting involved, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right, and this might be a good time to touch on the XFL. It is filling a void between the Super Bowl and Major League Baseball season.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I want to get your thoughts on it. I mean, the quality of football, some of the rule innovations, some of the broadcast innovations, sideline interviews, and guys mic players up live and stuff like that. Just what so far your impressions through 2 weeks?
So I got a call the other day, and a guy, former player, friend of mine, called me and talking about something else, a fundraising thing. And then he asked me what I thought about the XFL, and he says, I can't stand as a player the broadcast innovations in the locker room at halftime, and you come off the field and you have to do a report.
Mm-hmm. They're in the locker room live at halftime.
And I said to him, look, I don't like it, right? As a player, you don't like that, right? You got to have some sanctuary somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But as a network, I see why they're doing that. And as a league, I see why they're doing that, because they have to do something or anything to capture the interest. The product on the field is not going to capture a sustained interest. It'll capture a curiosity interest in the beginning. It doesn't catch a sustained interest for one reason and one reason only, is that the quarterback play in that league is substandard. Cardale Jones is playing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
A kid named P.J. Hall is playing pretty well. But everybody else, you look at some of the numbers, 9 of 20 for 58 yards or whatever. What makes the NFL popular and why guys get paid what they do is the quarterback position. Those are the needle movers. Those
Mm-hmm.
guys move the needle more than anybody else in any sport. I'm convinced of that. It's the equivalent of Tiger Woods in his prime being on a Final Five or
you knew every Sunday he was going to be there.
Yeah, and so CBS or NBC or ABC or whoever had the golf tournament that weekend, they're sitting there praying for the quarterback, or for Tiger Woods to be in the top 5 or in the hunt, right?
Yeah, to be in the tournament.
So you look at the NFL, I think, and I have no proof of this, but a pretty good guess that I think the NFL looks at a lot of the matchups, or networks look at a lot of matchups, not necessarily what teams are playing what teams, but what quarterback is playing what quarterback. Correct?
True. Well, that's a lot of times how they're promoted.
I mean, you think about it with if the Patriots are playing the Chiefs, they're not going to talk about the Chiefs' horrible defense, which did improve this year. That's why they're Super Bowl champions, or the Patriots, robot defense, where they're the no-name defense basically.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a couple really good players, but for the most part, they're not household names. They're going to talk about Brady and Mahomes.
Sure.
That's the matchup. That's the draw. That's the hook that gets people in. And so in order for a league, I think, to succeed and sustain viewership, if you don't have those named quarterbacks, you have to have another hook. And the hook is, we're giving you behind-the-scenes access. I don't like the kickoff rule. Everybody seems to like it.
Yeah.
I don't.
You don't? Okay, why not?
I think the blockers are at such a disadvantage on that, and when they're lined up head-to-head on the 35. What I do like is it gives guys a chance to play and to be able to be a part and make money playing football, and gives people opportunities. So I'm certainly in favor of that. I think Cardale Jones will actually get back into the NFL. I don't know what his commitment to the XFL is. I don't know the exact rule. I don't know if it's a 2-year thing you have to do, but I think when you look at Cardale, Cardale has only helped himself, which is good for Cardale and for Buckeye fans and for people that follow Cardale, and I'm certainly a fan of his. I hope he gets to be able to continue to play, and I hope he gets back to the NFL.
That's what I wondered about. I think Cardale is a very unique case. The XFL needs stories. You just talked about it. Quarterback play in the NFL compels people to watch. The star power, the stories. The XFL is, by pretty much definition, a bunch of no-names. They're not NFL guys. They're not good enough to be in the NFL, or they would be.
Or they were backups in the NFL.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a reason they're not on a roster. They're not out. They're not on a roster. Okay, but Cardale Jones is an exception in that he lit up the sky as a college player briefly.
One of the greatest stories in college
football. It is
football.
really an amazing story, given his tough growing up and all this stuff, and out of nowhere either he let him or they went and he went along. It's, I think, 50-50. Zeke was
I think it's
70-30.
70-30.
Okay.
What he did
Yeah, I mean, he
in
caught.
that stretch is absolutely phenomenal. You're right there. You have it at the top. NFL players or XFL players. Go back.
Okay.
So
XFL players are free to sign with NFL teams after the league's championship game, April 26th in Houston. So they can. They can't sign like during the season.
Right.
So Cardale, I agree with you. I think an NFL team will want to take a look again. I'm stunned he's not in the NFL right now anyway as a backup. I don't know, maybe his study habits were not what they wanted as an NFL backup quarterback. I don't know. But, Cardale flashed across the horizon and then got a chance to start as a senior, and that didn't work out. JT Barrett ended up getting the job back. And so Cardale has this forever hold on the love of Buckeye fans. He got him a national championship. And so Ohio State fans are, using this XFL success. He's kind of the face of the league.
He's got a great personality.
Yeah, he does. He's got a fantastic personality. And but it's the other day I was like, they're celebrating a guy who's not in the NFL, but do you want him back in the NFL? Because if he gets back in the NFL, he's not going to have the profile he has in the XFL. He's just going to be a background guy in the NFL.
I think Cardale probably wants to get back into the NFL. Who wouldn't? And plus the money's going to be much better for Cardale in the NFL. But I think I just love how he embraces every opportunity. He embraced every opportunity. And, you think about this, Bruce. I really think, this is my own opinion. I don't know how many people share this. I'm sure there's a few others. His story at Ohio State is probably the greatest story in Ohio State history of what he was able to do. It's one of the most unique stories, and it's like that movie I was telling you about, Overcomer, or The Comeback Kid, or what. It's like a Hollywood script.
It's a hokey Hollywood script
for Ohio State fans.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody can relate to this, but us as being Ohio State folks and following Ohio State, what he was able to do was it's unbelievable to me, where Urban almost ran him out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then you're going in and you lose JT Barrett, and this is your third guy now.
Yes, it is. Because Braxton was the guy at the start of the year.
This is the third guy. And to come in and play to the level that he played, not only throwing the ball, but remember, running the ball
physically.
And so it's a great story. And this is, I think, for the XFL and for him to come in and play well. And I think he leads the league in passing, if I'm not mistaken, or he's close to it. There was a kid, who was a guy? Somebody, Landry Jones threw for over 300 yards. I think he was the first XFL quarterback to throw for over 300 yards last weekend. But Cardale is an interesting guy in what he's doing. He's making a living playing football, and maybe he'll get back to the NFL. And that's what the XFL, to me, is all about. If these guys still have an opportunity to make a decent living and maybe have an opportunity to get back to the NFL, which is cool.
Do you agree with me that Cardale would not be as big a deal? All the Ohio State fan sites are writing about him. Buckeye fans are chattering about him. He's all over Twitter, buzz. Do you agree with me that he wouldn't have that kind of capture if he were doing this in the Canadian Football League? And
Absolutely.
I wonder why that is, because you tell me, is CFL football a better quality of football than XFL football?
I don't know, because I haven't watched enough of each to make a comparison, so I can't give you an answer on that, because I would be making it up, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I do think the CFL has some really good players. The CFL, from my understanding, most of the skilled positions, some of the linebacker positions are made up of American players, but there's a certain amount of Canadian players that are required to be on a CFL team. Canadian-born players that are required. I mean, you can play in the States and all that type of stuff, but there's been some pretty good transfer overs or people that were in the CFL. You think of Dieter Brock was an amazing quarterback with the CFL with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Tried it with the Rams, didn't work out. Of course, one of the all-time great quarterbacks, Hall of Famer, is Warren Moon. Many people would say, well, what team did Warren Moon play for in the CFL? And it was the Edmonton Eskimos,
Yes,
by the way, the green and yellow.
Yes, it was.
He had a pretty good running back by the name of Jim Germany that teamed up with Warren Moon and dominated the CFL.
Look at you on the CFL chops.
Well, because of my
obsession.
Some call it a disease of football. When I was younger, when ESPN first came on, the CFL was on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I watched every game that I could. And you remember Vince Ferragamo, played for Montreal, along with Tom Cousineau, played for Montreal. David Overstreet, a great running back from Oklahoma that played for Montreal. Marv Levy coached at Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
So the CFL certainly has its place.
Will the XFL start doing what the NFL will not do, and that is offering contracts to guys after 1 or 2 years of college football? People know the history. That was a big thing between the AFL and the NFL back in the day, not getting guys before their eligibility was done, but just going and offering an alternative place to play. Joe Namath to the AFL and some other big-name college guys to the AFL, and then the AFL-NFL merger. But the XFL, there's nothing stopping the XFL from going and getting Trevor Lawrence after the championship, after the playoff, and his sophomore year's over. He can't go to the NFL yet. There's nothing stopping the XFL from doing that.
Well, I could answer that question if I had one piece of information. Is there a salary cap in the XFL? Is there a limit on what players can make? I know that Colin Kaepernick was flirting around with the XFL, and I think he wanted $5 or $6 million a year, and they said no thanks. So, if I'm the XFL, I think I would be looking at that. And actually, I'm for that because I don't think, as you do, I think you and I are on the same page as this. Not everybody's cut out for college. It's just
correct.
Not the way it is.
So right now they have a deal in place where they can only pay them a certain amount of money a week, which is basically $5,000 is the ceiling. But
I think certain positions you can get more.
It only takes one ambitious owner to, push that through at the league level, and that's most leagues that start out say we're going to pay modest salaries and make sure we're profitable, and then somebody gets greedy and somebody gets Donald Trump with the New Jersey Generals and Herschel Walker, and Doug Flutie and Dave Lapham, I think.
Well, even you look at some of the great players that came out of the USFL. And one of them was the Philadelphia Stars. They had Sam Mills. Couldn't get in the NFL. Sam Mills was dominant in the XFL. Great linebacker from the New Orleans Saints and Carolina Panthers. If you don't know who Sam Mills is, look him up. Unfortunately, we lost Sam in a battle against cancer. Von Johnson, another player for the Saints who was a Pro Bowl linebacker when they had Sam Mills and Ricky Jackson and Von Johnson and Patrick Swilling. Remember that group with the Saints?
I do.
That four linebacker group was amazing players. You look at those guys. Kelvin Bryant. You remember Kelvin Bryant from North Carolina?
Yes.
So, there's a lot of great players that come to. That's what I'm excited about the XFL, is that maybe somebody that fell through the cracks through the NFL scouts gets an opportunity, is able to shine and get their opportunity to get in the NFL through the XFL. I just think they have a salary cap, and they'll probably stick to it as much as they can.
Mel Tucker, we talked about at Michigan State. The news on Michigan State is that there is now a photograph out there that corroborates the allegations of this assistant coach who alleges that Mark D'Antonio broke recruiting rules. And this photograph is of D'Antonio, the coach who's suing him, a couple other coaches, including Mike Tressel, with a recruit. And the photo itself is an NCAA violation, as this coach, his name is Blackwell, was not allowed to have contact with recruits. So he's there with D'Antonio, and D'Antonio had said the guy stayed in the car. So now there's this whole thing at D'Antonio in a deposition said the guy stayed in the car. There's a photograph that he didn't stay in the car. Did Mark D'Antonio commit perjury? It's gonna get ugly.
A minor violation anyway.
Yeah, but the minor violation. But Ohio State fans may remember that's how Aaron Kraft wound up at Ohio State. It was a picture of Bruce Pearl and Aaron Kraft at a party when Bruce Pearl said no such photograph existed. In that case, it was an NCAA thing. There was no deposition involved. Then there was no lawsuit involved. There's a lawsuit now. This Blackwell guy is upset that he was fired, and he's coming after D'Antonio. He's coming after Michigan State. So that's just the latest on that. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that Mark D'Antonio would be put in prison for perjury for what amounts to a recruiting violation, but hey, crazy stuff happens.
We'll see. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about. I've been sending you articles.
Yes, you have been.
And I think this is
when I get something in blue from you, I